I went back for the first time since my father was killed. I remember meeting the person who came to pick my father from home to go to kill him. When he knew it was me, he wanted to run away. I said, no, I'm here to forgive you because God forgave me too, and I want to forgive you.
Welcome everybody, this is Simon Gilbo and this is Inspired, and I'm super excited this week. We've got my old friend Dieudonné Nahimana. I think we just established that you're 46, I'm 48. I've known you for 23, 24 years, so that's over half our lives. Welcome Dieudonné.
Thank you so much, Simon, for giving me this opportunity.
It's great to have you, and I think English is your fourth language, so after Kirundi, French, Swahili. So giving an interview in your fourth language is very impressive. Listen, I know plenty, because we've done a lot of stuff together, of the latter phases of your life leading up to the latest exciting chapter when you actually stood as an independent for the presidency in Burundi. But going back, I know actually very little about your childhood, and I'm sure it's so utterly different from what a mainly Western audience would know. So, tell us a bit about your childhood, your family, Burundi back in the 70s. It'd be fascinating for us.
Thank you so much. I'm from northeast part of Burundi, which is province of Muyinga, in the commune of Gasorgwe. As you know, Burundi is one of the poorest country. I think it's maybe the second poorest or third poorest country in the world. And when I talk about Gasorgwe, it's the most poor area of the country. Like as maybe you remember in this country, after independence, there was division between regions. Like the south was leading the country. People from the south was and less investment and infrastructure in north. I mean, I grew up in an area where there's no school. I had to do like 12 kilometers walking, go to school. And then also there was no electricity, there's no water.
So 12 kilometers, just that again, for us, that just sounds absolutely crazy. So every day you're walking each way, what's that, an hour and a half, 2 hours?
2 hours. And sometimes you have to wake up early and you are like 6 years old and go to school and bring your food, or you're going to stay there and then come back evening. That was not easy thing to do, but at the same time, after that, you have to also to go to find water. Find water, you have to go somewhere like 2 kilometers and down here and bring the water at home. I'm the last born in my family, and my father used to be in the politics a long time ago. During the colonialism time, he was among the people who have been fighting for independence. He was very close to the hero of independence in our country. And he spent time talking to me about what they tried to do to see how they can gain the independence for our country, and then how it was very hard, and give me details about how colonialism was a bad thing. But at the same time, my dream was to become a priest, a Catholic priest, because I grew up in a very religious Catholic family. All my aunties are Catholic nuns. I mean, there was no, like, everything at home was about Catholic Church. And the person I saw the first time coming to our area with a car was the Catholic priest. And then from my understanding, was the ideal thing to do in life is to be a Catholic priest. And then I grew up with this kind of two main conversations at home. The politics about our country, what they wanted to do for the country that they didn't achieve. At the same time, I had that dream to become a Catholic priest, to serve the God, and at the same time to have a better life, because I saw the Catholic priests and nuns was looking people developed, who have resources and everything. That was the kind of two big ideas in my mind. I remember going to school early morning, around 6 a.m., and I was like feeling very close to God. And I remember asking God, one day I would like to become Rwagasore. Rwagasore is our hero of independence. And I was saying, God, I want to become like him. But at the same time, I was asking that I would like to serve God and to be a priest one day. That was my two main prayers since I was very, very young. I remember going to school. That time I was like around 12 years old. Teacher came, he started to ask us our nationality, the religion. There was filling some forms. And then when he asked me your nationality and also your region, I say I'm a Burundian. And then like the half of the class, they just scream. They say, "Oh, he's lying." And I look at one of my very close friend, ask him, "Why you say I'm lying?" He say, "Because they told us the Tutsi are not Burundians. I mean, people who are from another ethnic group, they called it Tutsi. They are not Burundians." I was very shocked. I remember the first question I asked my father was to ask him why you didn't tell me I'm not Burundian. He say, "Who told you?" And I say, my classmate." And then he say, "No, we are Burundians." And they say the Tutsi are not Burundians. He told me, "Who told you you are Tutsi?"
So literally, age 12, was that the first time you were exposed to the ethnic issue in your country? Before then, there had been nothing that had come in your mind along those lines?
No, there was nothing in my mind. There was nothing. It was difficult to see even the difference. There was no difference. We speak the same language. All my friends, we are playing the same games. We are very, very close friends. It was difficult for me, even after they told me that, I was not. I can't see the difference. And even my father was not able to explain to me. He told me what he told me only was, "No, you are Burundian. You are all the same. There's no difference." But inside of me, I start to realize that, oh, maybe there's a difference. But it was difficult to see. 1988 is when there was one of civil war not far from us in a province neighborhood in Kirundo and Ngozi. There was some killings happening, and then I was following from the news because that time I was a bit grown up, and I started to listen, and they were talking about Hutu and Tutsi, and then I saw that in our house we had to change the way we do things. I was not allowed to go to play normally with my friends, and then also they asked me not to eat or drink in any kind of house or to pay attention. And from that time, I started to feel there is a tense situation between the two ethnic groups, Hutu and Tutsi, without really understanding exactly what it is. But my father didn't really tell me anything about that. The only thing he managed to tell me was to explain to me that I'm from a royal family. I was finishing my primary school, and it's that time I start to leave home and go. I had to go to travel to the south to be able to pass the national exam to finish primary school and go to secondary school. I was like 200 kilometers from home. That time I started to feel exposed to these ethnic issues because I remember when I went to South, I was playing with some of them, my friends. Another friend asked me, "Who are you? Are you Hutu or Tutsi?" I say, "No, I don't know." And he said, "Why are you playing with this Hutu people?" I said, "I don't know. They're my friends, and I don't understand why I should not playing with them." And then that time I start to feel a kind of exposure to division and hatred.
Right. So, in general, incredibly tolerant, open-minded parents. They're not giving you any kind of prejudice or any ideas that you are better than anyone else or anything like that, even though you come from the royal family. I know in the country things are getting hotter and hotter, more and more tense. 88, maybe 20,000 people were killed then. And then it's getting more and more tense under pressure from the international community. There are free and fair elections in 1993. In 1993, it really kicks off. Where were you? What was going on? And obviously, that is the defining year in your life, in a sense.
Yeah, so, in '93, I was starting my boarding school in secondary school. I was in south of Burundi, in Burundi, which is more than 200 kilometers from home. And some month before, because the elections time was happening since the end of '92, there was a kind of tense situation. I remember going back home during the summer holidays. But I find a kind of fear which was there, and people were coming and passing by very close to us and say something like, "Oh, these people should go back where they came from." There was a tense situation, but my father was trying to show me that everything is okay. And then I went back to school in October, 21st of October. The president was democratically elected, or he was killed. And then the civil war started again. And in South, there was no big issue because of very, very well protected. I didn't know exactly what was going on. But in the same time, I was in somehow one of the leaders at school. As soon I went to the boarding school, I was elected to be one of the leaders in our school. But I saw a group of students, like the half of the school, they left after the president was killed. The next day, they left school in a very bad way, where everyone was like feeling bad because we didn't know what was going on, but they just left. And I asked my friend, what is happening? They tell me, they are the Hutu, and they're afraid that maybe it's going to be killings and everything. And they had to left the home, to left school and go take the hills. I remember that image was really, really, really sad. And I stayed at home at school. Our principal left. There was no leaders at school. We are all students. Just try to manage the school ourselves. And then I remember taking some kids who were very sick to the hospital. And then when I went there, I met someone who knew me from our family who was working in that area. And he called me, he took me aside. He asked me, do you know that your father was killed like 2 weeks ago?
Dear.
I was a bit shocked and say, how do you know that? They say, people have been killed in your area, many people have been killed, and then your father also have been killed. We don't know exact details of how it happened, but we didn't find even the body. And I remember standing that near that hospital. I was not able to realize and think about that because my father was a very close friend to me. He'd been teaching me many things. And at the same time, I'm a leader. I'm taking the kids to the hospital. I should not show them that I'm a weak person. And I had to, okay, I said, thank you. I didn't even cry. I didn't do any kind of reaction. I just took the students back to school. I remember I was feeling bad inside of me, but at the same time, what can I do? I'm at 200 kilometers. There's no buses. I can't leave school, and I didn't know what to do.
Just for everyone to understand, the genocide that kicked off, it was absolute carnage. Everyone's heard about Rwanda, 1994. This was before. This was a few months before. This is October, November time, 1993, and in the ensuing war, it's very different guesstimations of how many people were killed, but it was in the few hundreds of thousands of people were killed. So, Dieudonné, you presumably wanted to get back to your mother back in the north, and I don't know if you could share with it. Did you ever find out how your father was killed?
Yes, I remember going to the Catholic bishop who was very close to our school, and asked if they can help me to go to see what happened and to see where is my mother, because I was trying to communicate. There was no communication, and I didn't know exactly what happened and everything. And they managed to give me a car and someone who was going to that area and took me back. And that was the most very hard time for me because I remember arriving It wasn't possible to go back where I grew up because after the killings, everything, the roads were closed. But I went to the refugee camp because some of the relatives who were not killed, they managed to move to a kind of refugee camp at the center. And I remember going there and see 1,000 people very living, sleeping outside without enough clothes and everything. And then I was really shocked to see that. But I was expecting that everything they told me was lying. I'm going to see my father somewhere among these people. And I was trying to research, and I saw some of the people I know, and everyone was coming to me say, sorry, your father was killed with other 19 people, and we don't know exactly all the details and everything. And then, but we know who came to pick him from home, which was the leader of our Catholic church. And then they give me some details of names and everything. But I managed to see that my mom survived, because that time they were not killing women; they were just only killing men. And the only women who were killed was those who were pregnant, because they have to make sure they're not pregnant of boys. They told me one friend they put in the pit, and they didn't kill him. He stayed there for around 5 days before he died, and he was crying, asking for help, and no one was able to help him. And they told me that my father, before they put in that pit, there was someone come and use a knife and try to kill him. But all this, the kind of details, that time is when really I realized that, okay, it's finished. My father was killed. But with the education my parents give me, I was not able to think about revenge or to go to fight, because most of the young people my age were trying to go to join a rebellion group or army to start to see how they would come to revenge one time. That was that day when I went there. It was very dark time for me to see these people in that refugee camp.
And um, so it was essentially people who were professing to be Christians, they were Catholics that did this, and so that had a key impact in you, didn't it, in terms of what faith meant to you on your journey?
Yes, from since that time, I gave up to believe in God because my father was really someone who was practicing the religion, who was going to church every Sunday. Everyone we grew up like that, and we were going to church together, and then see how the same people who are in the same church kill each other. And also, one of the people who was leading, he was not a priest, but he was the one in charge of that church where we grew up. He was one of leading this kind of killings. And even later, we find even our bed and everything in his house, and he took everything for, because they were not only killing people, they were also destroying the house, even cutting down trees, which can help you to remember where your house used to be, and everything was like cut down. And then I was not able to understand that. And I remember going back and to school and say, "There's no God. I don't believe in God anymore," because God was not able to protect my father, and also the people who have been preaching, they're the one involved in this kind of killings. And then I start to teach the young people, other people, that doesn't exist. It's just an idea of people who come to try to colonize or to take control of our minds. And Jesus was, I'd say, he maybe exists, but he was like Nelson Mandela or Martin Luther King or other leaders, but not God. And I remember that was the main separation.
So what was the journey to actually finding your way back to God, if you like?
After I came back from home, I was not able to continue studies because everything was stopped, and I managed to come to the city center of Bujumbura, where there was no someone who really to take care of me. And then I managed to meet with a very close friend of mine who have finished secondary school, or the same secondary school, but he was finishing secondary school. He was now at the University of Burundi, Bujumbura, and he saw me struggling on the streets, and he said, "Can you come and stay in my room at the university campus. That was a miracle for me to find a place where I can go and stay. When I went to stay with him, he started to talk about God in different ways, and he was just someone who also just come back to faith, and then he was trying to ask me what I think about the Bible, but I just realized that I was not no longer very interested in that. But at the same time, I had to have a respect to him because he was the one who helped me. And I asked him, I said, please give me a Bible. I'm going to use that Bible to show you that there's no God. And he gave me a New Testament Bible. And I remember, because I was not going to school, I was just staying with him. I start to read the Bible with the purpose to prove that there's no God, because that God who was not able to protect me, my family, and everything is not real. And I remember starting with Matthew. When I reached Matthew 5, when Jesus started to talk about who are the blessed people and everything, started to talk about to love our enemy and to forgive the people who did bad things to us,
Yeah.
was really strange. It was like someone is with me in the room. I was trying to prove there's no God, but the presence of God was there when I was reading. I remember starting to cry, and I opened my mouth. I say, "Do you think if I forgive the people who killed my father, I'm going to find peace?" And it was like, I'm not, something very clear. There's a heavy presence. I say, if forgive the people who killed my father is going to give me peace, I choose to forgive. And I remember that time just crying like a crazy person, because it was like something deep inside of me come out. And then I was keeping reading, and I was not able to tell anymore of my friend that there's no God, because I was a real presence when I was reading the Bible. I was not able to explain. And then when he come back to the room, he saw me changed. Saw me different, and he started to ask me what happened. I didn't want to tell him that now, okay, I found God. But at the same time, he knew, and he started again to talk about love, forgiveness, and everything. He prayed with me, and I say, okay, can you invite you to one breakfast meeting, and then you can come and listen what they are saying? Because now I was not going to church. My breakfast was good for me because I didn't have enough food that time. I went to that breakfast meeting, and it's where someone was preaching about how God loves us, and we have been separated with God because of the sin, and how Jesus paid the price just to redeem us, and then to give us a new life, and then how we can be a new creation by believing in Jesus. That was very clear answer to all the questions I have before, to understand why this is happening. And I knew now all this is happening because of sin, and I knew because of all the hatred between people is not because they are Hutu or Tutsi, but because it was the what started when people lose their relationship with God and everything. And I knew what I needed to have peace and to live peaceful was to accept forgiveness from God, and to be able to give forgiveness to people who did bad things to me. And that was the beginning of a new journey. And then I remember standing, and they prayed for me, and then the peace I have not experienced before come to my heart. And then I just realized I don't believe in religion, but at the same time, there's a truth which really now changed my life. That was the beginning of my new journey to work with God and start to learn to understand who is God. And then my position was very clear.
Folks, I would just love it if you're enjoying Inspired with Simon Gilbert, if you could get others to hear about it. So could you spread the word? Could you subscribe to the podcast? Could you give it a 5-star rating on iTunes so that more people get to see it? And if you want to be in touch with me, simongilbert.com and various social media platforms. Okay, back to the podcast. So that was the beginning of your life with Jesus, really a new birth, as it were. And I suppose that's when I met you. I mean, you'd obviously been a leader all the way. You'd led at your school. You'd led in whatever you were doing. You had those innate capacities. So you started this organization called New Generation. More than an organization, it's a movement, isn't it? Tell us what happened then.
Yes, when I started to go back to church, I remember one Christmas Day. It was on 98 Christmas Day, and then I was translating for someone at church. And when we finished the service, she asked me where I'm going to go, what I'm going to do for Christmas. I said I don't have nothing to do and then nowhere to go, and I'm just going back to my room at the campus, the university campus. And she gave me 5,000 Burundian francs, which was approximately $5, and that was all the money I had. What was for me a big donation to me. And I was thinking maybe I can go to the beach and have some drinks and have some time just to rejoice because we have a very beautiful lake here in Bujumbura. But then when I was taking the bus to the city center, I saw a group of street children sitting on floors. I felt my heart that I should go and talk to them because they are very young, they are suffering, but I knew that life because I went through that before. And I went to see them and we start to sing and talk about Christmas. And I just realized that I was giving joy to them with the $5 someone give to me. And then I remember feeling my heart, very clear voice coming to me, say, "You are no longer an orphan. Now you can take care
Mm,
of orphans." And then
powerful.
that was the beginning of the journey of starting to every day go back to the streets, see the youngest street children as trying to find some food and bring to them. And every Sunday, I was taking hundreds of street children on the beach. And I remember meeting you on the beach with you are with some people I think from TFund and everything, and start to ask me why I'm doing that, if I have funding for that. There was no funding. I was just taking kids there with the minimum I had, and they were singing. I was preaching them to gospel and everything. And then that was the beginning of a long uh, journey of working and helping and be with the street children. But at the same time, that vision was very clear that God is going to use those who look like neglected, like the street children, to heal the country, to see how transformation can happen in our country. And I knew the calling was to invest in them and to see how they can have a normal life, but they be the future leaders of the country. And then it's that time we start to think about an organization and start to structure a new generation. A new generation was born that time. And same time we're doing reconciliation program, try to bring divided young people from different ethnic groups together, preaching the gospel of reconciliation and see their lives be transformed. That's really was the beginning of a transformation even in my life because I went back for the first time where I grew up. And it had been a long time since my father was killed. And I managed to go there to preach the gospel. I remember meeting the person who'd come to pick my father from home to go to kill him. When he saw me, he didn't recognize me because I grown up. It was like maybe 10 years later. And then I tell him that I come to forgive him. When he knew it was me, he wanted to run away. I say, no, I'm here to forgive you because God forgave me too, and I want to forgive you. And that was really powerful. Something was taking the weight I had for a long time. They managed to show me approximately where my father was buried with the other 19 people. And I start to feel that, yes, finally, God really changed my heart because I was not feeling hatred or a plan to revenge, but I was feeling love and see how I can do something to change that community. And there's a reason why, even after that, I decided with my family to support the children of the person who came to kill my father because I knew he needed forgiveness, and I know the kids need to stop the cycle of violence. We should do something for them. Now, one of the children of his children who have been supporting, he just finished his school. He came to us to see us in Bujumbura, bringing, showing that he finished school to say thank you, and we are very close now. His father died some years ago, and but we are very close, and we feel that there is something new happening.
I cannot think of a more clear and powerful demonstration of the gospel at its core, isn't it? That you not just forgave the killer of your father, but also you went back, didn't you? And you preached at the spot where he was buried. You preached reconciliation, and then you support his kids through school, and even when he's died, you carried on supporting those kids through school. I mean, I think that just blows my mind. And yeah, that is the purest gospel, isn't it? That is in what is a very difficult context. We've had so many discouragements, both of us in ministry together, but that is the power of the gospel that is the hope for Burundi, and it's the hope for any country, the hope for any situation, because some guys listening right now will have issues of unforgiveness, of bitterness, of wanting revenge, and yet it's supernatural. Romans 5:5 says God pours out his love into our hearts by the Holy Spirit whom he has given us. So bless you for that, brother. Now, time is definitely running out, and there's so many juicy stories. You're supporting these street kids. I just remember one story that we overlap with, and I know you've got loads of these in terms of provision. I remember you were praying with your street kids, and you were saying, crying out to God, you were hungry, you didn't have any money to eat, and you were saying, God, come on, Lord, we've had enough of just living off the scraps. Please, can we actually have one decent meal today? And I was just attending a function at the American ambassador's house, and there are all these canapes, this amazing spread of food fit for a king. And it was at the end, and there was loads of food, and it was probably going to get thrown away. And I was like, could I take that? I've got friends at work. We run a street kids project. Could I take all that? And they gave me all this amazing food. And you guys had just prayed, Lord, we've had enough of rubbish food. We're hungry. Please, are you there? Can you hear us? And I walk in with these platters of canapes fit for a king. And it's like, yes, Lord, you've heard our prayer. Dieudonné, I know you've got loads of those stories. Just give us a few stories of where the Lord so clearly showed that he was with you on your journey.
Yeah, one of that one you just said, and even today we still have a nickname we give to that food that day. That was a miracle happening. Another thing is when a businessman from Sweden came, and then he was just passing by Burundi, tried to help a Catholic bishop to start an orphanage, and then I was just helping him to see the city, and he asked me what I'm doing, and I say I just spend time with the street kids, and he come to see where we were meeting with the street kids. He see like 200 street kids there every morning, trying to find. He was asking me, where do you find money to support your project? I say, I don't have money. We just go collect food from hotels and everything. And he said, why should I help this Catholic church, which have a lot of money? I would like to rent a house. Can you help me to take care of that house? And when I come back here, I can stay in that house. I say yes, but the same condition, asking, can I take some of the youngest street kids staying with me in that house? I remember when he said yes, I managed to take 30 street kids in the house, in a beautiful house, in a beautiful area of Bujumbura. And then I was staying with the street kids in the same house. Someone who came to help me as a volunteer, she was helping with the street kids. And then God connected our hearts, and we decided to be married. And she was also very happy to take care of that big family. And then this is how all this every day taking care of the street children started. And then we have been seeing many miracles. I have been telling to the children, you're going to be the hero of this country. You're going to impact the future of this generation. And then I can't say many stories, but some of them I can say, for example, is when I managed to have our street children football team go to Rio for the World Cup in 2014. And then we went there without football boots and nothing. And we managed to become the second in the world. We played the final and then when we come back here, the president of the country welcomed the children and everything. And even we went back to the World Cup in 2018 in Moscow, and we became third in the world. And now those three children start to see, with God, with faith in God, everything can be possible, and they can realize their dreams.
I love that. Can I just say, because you haven't bigged it up enough, that you came back from Rio, from the Street Kids World Cup, as sort of national heroes, and there were people meeting at the airport, and a great big entourage on television, and then all these the street kids that played were you were able to go around sort of speaking from that platform of hope that these people who are nothing actually could use their sort of newfound celebrity to preach reconciliation and forgiveness. And that is just such a hopeful message, isn't it? Because those guys were
Yeah.
seemingly absolutely hopeless. And then you did the same also with the street kids at Olympics, and some more gold medals and silver and bronzes. And it's just fabulous. I'm just again thinking we should do another podcast, because there's so many more stories. You've got 20 years of challenges, of, I know some things you can't even talk about, just really horrible things that have gone wrong, but you've built it, and now, you've got this great big center. There's a church there. There's entrepreneurial programs. You've spawned sort of whole dozens, hundreds of kids that are now adults that have got married, that instead of being, a street kid essentially is already a thief because you have to survive that way, and they're often recruited as rebels, and all those guys instead they're in jobs and they're contributing to society, and it is so wonderful, but it's a long, tough journey, isn't it?
Yes, we don't have enough time to talk about things which really was very hard. I remember sometimes there was ups and down when you lose everything, when people who you've been working with, they come and they do something wrong or bad, and try to think about themselves than just focusing on the work and the calling you have. And yeah, I sometimes I want, even sometimes people try to do bad things to me until they take me to prison sometimes, and then by the grace of God I come out from there. And by keeping doing the work I've been doing, my family was not able to understand me and sometimes discouraging me or say you should stop doing this because you are helping the majority of the children, you're helping from those who killed your father and everything like that. But this was very, very hard time. There was really time of crying, time of discouragement, time you think everything is now finished. But every time there was God opened another door, and we managed to continue and see now helping hundreds of street children, thousands of the young people have been preaching and teaching about leadership and reconciliation and entrepreneurship. We thank God. The journey, we keep saying it's just started. It is not yet finished. And we have raised many young people who are now continuing, and they're going to have more impact, maybe more than I did with my team. And we thank God that we see now some kind of tangible results.
Yeah, and maybe it was meant to be that we concentrated on the earlier part of your life rather than the latter part. And I say that because in the last year, so in 2020, you stood as an independent candidate for the presidency, and there'd be a lot to say about that. But Glow and us, we didn't support you. We can't support you. We want to see good leadership rise up. I think listeners read between the lines on this, but it's a very delicate political situation, and so maybe it's good that in this podcast we don't talk too much about that. Suffice to say that in 2015, the last election cycles lead to a lot of violence, and you stood as an independent and you shared a completely different message. So you hand over a new generation. It's got new leadership. That's a 23-year chapter of your life, and you hand that on, and you stand and you share a completely different kind of vision, a vision of hope. You honor all the other parties. You manage to actually affect the whole tone of the debate. And whereas more than 1,000 people died at the last election cycle, nearly 500,000 fled the country, this last time there was real peace. I think only 2 people died, and so it's hard to quantify the impact that had, and I just want to honor you for that. And what people won't understand is that Dieudonné is now, he's like he's would be one of the top, I guess, 10 best known people in Burundi. So there's real name recognition, and you're known as a man of integrity, and as a pastor and as a leader. You've got your own radio show, so you've got massive access to people, and you just want to use that for good. And so you've got the Dieudonné Nahimana Foundation. What's your vision right now? And tell us, if people want to be in touch with you, how they can do that.
Yes, during the campaign, I just realized the reality of the country, how people, the majority of people in our country, they don't understand how God blessed our country and how we have everything we needed to live a good life. It's only because the bad leadership and self-centered leadership, which really take our country to be a very poor, one of the poorest country. My key objectives now with DNF, the Nahimana Foundation is, first of all, to inspire the young people and show them what is possible. To inspire them is the same time to preach them the gospel, to show them the possibilities that we have to be able to unlock the potential we have inside of us, and also the potential our country have. I want to keep going and meeting young people in different areas and poorest areas in schools and inspire them and show them what have been possible to me from the streets to be a presidential candidate. All that journey, it was because I was inspired, because I believed in the principles of the kingdom of God. This is the first thing we want to inspire young people and show them that there's possibilities. They can keep believing in the best future for their lives. Secondly, we want to incubate new ideas, of innovation ideas, of those who want to develop some businesses or some other activities to create an environment where those ideas can be incubated and then they can grow until they can help the people in their communities to find solutions to their problems. And the third thing we want to do is to invest. It can be an investment in terms of teaching, but at the same time also an investment to give some startup for the project, for the young people who are starting some farming activities or other activities which are practical. It can help develop the communities and also bring reconciliation among the people. This is the three main key points we want to focus on as DNF, because that can go broad beyond new generation work, also the church work, but we can touch many churches and many organizations and try to inspire them, because now they see the results of the journey we went through. It's just the beginning. The only big issue, many people have been supporting new generation only, or others that don't understand yet what we are doing for the moment. We don't have yet the resources to do that. We try to do with the minimum we have for the moment to keep inspiring and also incubate, but at the same time to invest in the next generation of servant leaders who have to understand. Yeah, who understand that the principle is to be a servant, not to be just a leader.
Brilliant. Dieudonné, it's so wonderful. Listen, I will put in the blurb accompanying this podcast the various details that you can be in touch with Dieudonné directly, and do pray for him. He's got masses of potential, so much relational capital and influence in the country, and we want to see that maximized. And one of the biggest encouragements in my life. We've journeyed a long time, and I wish you all the very best with your team. Thanks for your time, Dieudonné.
Thank you for your prayers and support. Bless you too.
Bye-bye. Toodaloo, everybody. Bye. See you next week. We've got another great guest. I look forward to it.